Leisure boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be having an update on the markets. Now, listen, things are looking really, really good, right? Like really, really good. If we go back even just a little bit, June looked kind of 50-50 because the monthly candle was fairly weak for a monthly candle, right? It was kind of mediocre, if I'm being completely honest, but the 3 month was more than beautiful. So, you know what? There were some expectations, some possibilities that we could have a little bit of a retracement before we, started to pump, right? And it did look that way until practically June 23rd when we started to recover. And then ever since then, we were creating consistently higher and higher lows, right? We have a low over here. If we take this over here, boom, take it like that, boom, and there we go. We had another low over here, right? And, we were just consistently going higher, but the roofs weren't rising. The roofs were not rising. And then we exploded, ladies and gentlemen, right? We exploded on the 9th of July, going from 109,000 to all the way to $119,000 for Bitcoin. So a 10K rise in about a week, a little bit less to be honest. And it is looking really, really beautiful. Like it is looking really, really beautiful. So, what is next? Because look, this weekly candle is as strong as it could possibly get. I mean, there's barely any rejection, right? Literally barely any rejection. If we take it from here, right, that's 19,000, sorry, 119,000. $122 and yeah, $300 difference. That's nothing. That is literally nothing. So, that is the weekly top. If we do not just kind of continue to go straight up from here, then minor pullbacks are expected, right? If we do have a very, very small pullback, then we could be looking back, back to 118,500 to then push further up, right? Something like this. Boom, 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 boom. Now, if we do exhaust a little bit more, which on the 4 hour, it does show like it's a possibility, then a pullback to this daily order block would not be surprising. Okay. This daily order block over here, right? It would not be surprising if we do pull back down to this level. This is the level where I would definitely be looking to be taking some type of buys if I were trading. But of course, I would have to see how price action is at the moment before I would do that, right? So if there is a little bit of a further pullback, right, then we are maybe expected to go down a K and a half at most to then really start to rally, right? I really, really doubt that we will be going to these levels. For me, these are invalid levels, and I would be surprised to see Bitcoin already exhaust a good amount and pull back, like $3,000 to then go further up. I would be really, really surprised if we already needed to take some type of break and go back that much, right? Going back a thousand a little bit is not that bad because then we would obviously spring thousands and thousands of dollars. Okay. I do expect for Bitcoin to really do well over the next few months. That is my personal take, right? I do believe that we will actually be looking to overtake this massive resistance, which we talked about in the previous video, right? In the previous video, we did say how there is a very, very large resistance over here, right? And we go break it down on a smaller time frame, we can kind of see that we are chilling on top of this line on the daily. Okay, so this is very, very exciting. This is very, very exciting. Obviously, in the event where we just get faked out and start dumping below, which I really, really doubt, and there's no data to suggest it, then of course, it's going to be another top. But I really do believe that this is going to be the difference, right? This is going to be the difference where we actually, for once, go above all of this big resistance, turning into support, allowing us to kind of just rock it up, right? When there's going to be a lot of money in this cycle, which there will be, right? I would not be surprised when there's going to be a lot of aggressive buys. When we go and look at something actually like JA which is gold, right? JA which is gold. If we go and look at older data, okay, once this thing kind of had ETFs, which were back, I forget the exact year, it's like mid 2000s. this thing just kind of never stopped going up. It was super, super narrow, right? Once it kind of got above its zone, right? Retested it and started to pull up. It was extremely, extremely narrow for the longest of times before some type of big correction to then, go further back up, right? But we can see that gold, right? Gold was in this very, very narrow trend line. Okay. And Bitcoin has something, Bitcoin can pull something very, very similar. I mean, very, very similar, right? Because we are literally at a point where we are in a very, very similar boat. And that is just a reality, right? We are in a similar boat. And, this could be the ETF difference, not only the ETF difference, but, the fact that we are above this huge resistance, we flip it to support. All of a sudden, this is fair game, right? To the market makers, this is going to be fair game. Now, if we look at something that's very, very important, right? The total market cap, we can see, ladies and gentlemen, that, we are roughly at all-time highs. And I do expect for us to really break this, right? Break this 3.68 trillion market cap zone, retest it, and then go further up, right? It would be really, really surprising if things were not going to go our way, right? If we go like this, boom, just further up, further and further over the next few short months, okay? If we go and actually look at the highs of this, right, a potential stop in the short term could potentially be roughly around, the 5.5 trillion market cap zone. But I do think we are actually going to fly way above these price points. I really, really do believe that we are going to fly way above these price points because, like I said, the stock market in 2024 peaked at 180 trillion. Yes, obviously, stock market has been been here a lot longer, but still, the point still stays the same. Now we go and look at something like Bitcoin dominance. Yes, we did drop a little bit, but nothing too crazy. When we look at it, right, we are simply, from what I see, just kind of retesting. Okay, we are kind of retesting. Yeah, we still look fairly bearish, and we could honestly go potentially to slightly lower levels before we try to pull back up, but I do not see any confirmation of us really taking a huge sell, right? I'm talking like a couple percent drop. Okay, it would be extremely, extremely surprising. I do believe, however, we are much closer to the end than the start or even the halfway point when it comes to Bitcoin dominance, right? I do believe there's a high chance that even if we go down, 1.5%, that we're going to pull up and we will have our final leg, an aggressive leg, before then we have an aggressive sell-off, sideways and downwards movement, which we've been expecting something like this to happen for literally over a year on this channel, right? Ever since this channel was made, I've been talking about it, that how I expect Bitcoin dominance to go all the way up here. And that is just the truth. That is just the reality. We can see, right, when we pull up some of our altcoins, they are booming, right? They're slowly recovering. Turbo at 0.0045. XDC went nuclear today. HBAR went nuclear, went up like 30-40%. Ethereum is almost at $3,000, right? So we can see coins are slowly starting to go up, even though it's not necessarily our main time to be shining. But yeah, ultimately, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.